Welcome into Tuesday Night Takes, and thank you for spending 1 hour of your time with us. I'm Shredder. Here's my friend Nathan. Nathan, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. No, I can't complain.
Doing good. That's a good thing. Before we get into this, I want to say uh, don't forget to check out W.GG. W has now increased the sponsorship for me. Now, if you use my code on W.GG, Shredder, SHRD3R, you get 20% off instead of 10. So take advantage of that. Go check out the shop and see anything you like and just buy it because it's going to be discounted anyways. Either way, we're going to get right into this. We have a few days until the first round of the NFL draft takes place, and it, we're time. It's draft season. This is it. We're coming down to it. So today we're going to give you our final mock drafts. We both have made one, and we're going to compare them, kind of see what things seem very firm between us and see what things are different. So without further
Hmm.
ado, Nathan, what are your first 8 picks in the NFL draft that you think will happen?
Yeah, so I'll run through these. I won't talk about trades quite yet. I'll just go team player. So one, obviously Caleb Williams to the Bears. That's a lock at this rate. Two, I've got the commies taking Jaden Daniels. Three, I've got Drake May going to New England. Four, I have Arizona sticking and picking Marvin Harrison Jr. Five, I have Vikings trading up with the Chargers. Uh, Chargers are getting those two first round picks, and Vikings take JJ McCarthy here at 5. 6, I have Malik Neighbors. Um, could go a few different directions there with the Giants, but I have Malik Neighbors here. 7, kind of another lock. I've got Joe Wald. I just don't see them going any other direction there. And then at 8, I have my second trade in the top 10. I've got Atlanta trading down to 10 with the Jets. I have the Jets moving up to grab Romo Dunze. Um, I expect there to be at least two trades in the top 10 this year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around 4 or 5. I expect a team like a Minnesota, or it'll probably be Minnesota. They're just the team that has the capital to do so, and I think they're going to move up to get their quarterback, JJ McCarthy. Maybe there's smoke. There's some rumors that perhaps New England will trade out. I find that less likely. Um, but I think there will be a trade there, and I think somewhere between 8 and 10, you're going to see a trade. And for my mock, I just had the Jets moving up. For me, it just made the most sense for Atlanta to be the team that moves out, and I was looking at who was available. Rome Odunze is there, and I was thinking, well, who's relatively near that pick at 8 to go up and get Rome? And I see the Jets there, and it's like, well, they have a slightly incomplete receiving core with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams. They don't really have a three after that. There's three Xavier Gibson, so go up. You only have to move up 2 spots to go grab a really solid rookie in Rome Odunze. You can play Garrett Wilson in the slot or outside, maybe even Rome in the slot. Who knows? But yeah, I think the Jets moving up to get Rome Odunze right there at 8 would be an exceptional pick for the Jets.
Yeah, mine is, I'll start with mine. The first 3 picks are pretty much firm, except for the fact of maybe who's 2, who's 3. That's what I did in mine. Caleb Williams at 1 to the Bears, no doubt about that. I have Drake May at 2 to the Commanders. Have I been on the Jaden Daniels to the Commanders train? Yes, I have. For the wrong reasons, really. I don't think it's the move they should do. I think it's the move they will do. But I think there's all this stuff coming out with Jaden Daniels right now about he doesn't want to be in Washington. And do I believe that? Not entirely. But today there is more came out that said he was under the impression that meeting with the Commanders was going to be a one-on-one, and they ended up having 20 something prospects all at once, and it kind of put him in the wrong spot. I don't know. Do I believe it? Not necessarily. However, I'm going to go Drake May. I do know Jaden Daniels' agent did put the Commanders on blast, so that's a thing for sure. Um, Drake May at 2 to avoid the Jaden Daniels problems. Jaden Daniels at 3 to the Patriots. I have the Cardinals trading out at 4. Minnesota coming up and getting J.J. McCarthy. The basis of the trade is really the same you mentioned a minute ago with the Chargers. I just think the Cardinals have a lot to gain from giving up picks because they have so many holes that they need to gather more assets at one time. 5, Marvin Harrison to the Chargers. I think they would trade out if Arizona stays and takes Marvin Harrison. But if he's on the board, they've got to go Marvin Harrison Jr. to get Justin Herbert a weapon. 6, I also do have Malik Neighbors. I think if 4 quarterbacks go in the top 5, it's done. They're taking Malik Neighbors. They just are assuming he's on the board, and they're taking a receiver if 4 quarterbacks go. You can't take Bo Nix at 6. I don't think it's possible. 7, also Joe Alt. So we have 2 back-to-back in the same order there. And at 8, I have the Falcons going Dallas Turner. I thought the first top 10 might be an offense for a while, but at this point, I'm starting to think that Atlanta's fixed a lot of their needs. They've taken the receiver need, they've taken the differences there and fixed all that. So, for the most part, I think they know they want to get an edge rusher. I think that's what they want to do, and you either go Dallas Turner or Jared Verse. Well, at this point, they've probably made their decision on which one they want to do. So take your guy. Why move down and maybe have to settle for Jared Verse? Take your guy and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you have to, interesting between the two of our first 8 picks?
Yeah, no, I mean, with Minnesota moving up, it could just as well easily be Arizona as it is the Chargers if they trade up. I think both of those teams are in positions where they could both greatly benefit from moving down. Um, the reason why I have Arizona sticking is that I think with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who is almost such a sure lock as a really good pro, as an incoming rookie, I think it'd be really hard for them to pass up on that, especially given how weak their receiving room is right now. That's a need of theirs, and they've got
Right.
a super, high floor, high ceiling lock right there at number 4 with Marvin Harrison Jr. And so, like you said, they very well could move back because they do have a lot of needs. However, man, would it be difficult for them to have to pass on a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who is I mean, he's one of the best receiver prospects that we've seen in years.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into our next 8, starting at pick 9 down to 16. What do you got there?
Yeah, so got a few trades here. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we've got just 2 teams that shuffled around. So 9, I've got the Bears sticking there at 9. I have them taking Dallas turn right there. I had Atlanta move out. That might be where you see a lot of people mock Dallas Turner to the Falcons at 8, but I have him falling to 9 to the Bears. It's a big need of theirs, edge rusher. And then I had that trade with the Falcons and the Jets where the Falcons moved down to 10. I have them taking Quinyon Mitchell right there at 10. 11, I have the Chargers. They've moved back. They take Talise Fuaga. 12, I have Bo Nix to the Broncos. I think that just makes sense at this rate. 13 with the Raiders. I mixed this mock up just a little bit. However, I still think it makes plenty of sense. I have Terry and Arnold going to the Raiders. 14, got Olu Fashanu. They still need that pass blocking tackle, and I think he's one of those guys who maybe doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he's one of the safer bets out of the tackles available. And then I've got Brock Bowers at 15 to the Colts. Is that the next segment, or are we cutting off right there, or are we going one more to the
16. What's your
16? 16. All right, 16. I've got Seattle taking Troy Fatanu. You can get a little bit of a guard tackle flexibility right there. I think he comes in, plays extremely well at guard. If you decide that Abraham Lucas, or if Abraham Lucas isn't your solution at right tackle, then maybe kick him out there, see if he can work. But if not, then he's going to be a great guard. They had to let, I believe, either one or both of their guards walk this offseason. So interior O line is going to be a big need of theirs. But yeah, that's what I've got there.
I gotcha. I'm trying to remember what you said on all of those. What was your pick 12?
My 12 was Bo Nix to the Broncos.
Right. Okay. I'm not thinking of 12 then. Oh, it was Talise
Louis
Fuaga
McNamara.
at 11. Yeah. There
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go. Talise Fuaga. That one, I think if the Chargers are the team that trade down, that is a very good way to go about it. I mean, you're getting the chance to go grab, a receiver prospect potentially later when this is a deep class anyways, but also an offensive lineman that Jim Harbaugh is going to want. So that's a really nice one there. And if the Chargers
Mhm.
are the ones who move out, that makes plenty of sense. My number 9 pick, I have a trade here. So this is only my second trade so far. I have the Broncos coming up about 4 spots with the Bears to grab Bo Nix to make sure that nothing goes haywire on them. They're not going to have to go up a ton. They'll have to go up a little bit just because they're not moving too far. But
Mhm.
they want to make sure that the Raiders don't jump them or something like that doesn't happen. Then at 10, I have the Jets taking Brock Bowers. I think, they could go receiver and do what you said exactly. However, I think there's another route where, you have Mike Williams, you have Garrett Wilson. let's get you a good playmaker in a different spot on the field. I think both are just as likely. Plus, Brock Bowers is a crazy prospect himself. At
Mhm.
11, I have the Cardinals with this is their trade with Minnesota. They still land Roma Dunze at 11, which is a absolute steal. If you can move back, and yeah, it's not Marvin Harrison Jr., but you're getting a top 3 receiver in a loaded receiver class,
Mhm.
you're in a good spot.
Mhm.
At 12, I have the Bears getting Jared Verse. They probably want to go edge rusher anyways, in my opinion. I think you went Dallas Turner. Is that correct?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and they want an edge rusher and they need an edge rusher because outside of Montez Sweat, they don't really have another. That's a really solid way to get one there. 13, Talise Fuaga.
Mhm.
That's who I have them going with. I think they need to fix their O line bad. 14, Troy Fatanu. And then 15, Quinion Mitchell. I think Quinion Mitchell, the marriage to the Colts, is a one that I think makes tons and tons of sense. I don't know why, but to me, I just like that the fit to the team. And at 16, Leatu Latu, once again, another seamless fit uh, for the Seahawks in this one. Just so they can, they haven't had a real edge. Boye Mafe's not a real edge. Uchenna Nwosu's not a real edge. They're both 2 to 3 guys. They need a real number 1. Leatu Latu may not be elite, but he can be very, very good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Any differences you got there?
Yeah. So I had Quincy Mitchell going a lot earlier, and the thing it was whenever I first mocked it, I thought it was kind of odd, but I, I began to slowly rationalize it in my head because I feel like every year, somewhere around that like 7 to 12 range, you see a pick that's like, I didn't really expect that guy to go there. That's kind of a weird fit, I guess. But in a way, when I began to think about it more, it kind of made a little bit more sense to me because the Falcons, they have AJ Terrell, who's proven to be a great CB1, but
Right.
or at least a good CB1. But past that, they're a little bit weak, and so sometimes I think it makes just as much sense to really bolster a position group like they would be doing here at corner as it does to fill an individual need. Maybe a team needs a guard or an edge rusher, but if a team like Atlanta, who already has a strong CB1, can grab the number 1 corner in the class and Quinion Mitchell and have 2 studs out there at corner, I think that's just as good as filling a need. So, with them missing out on Dallas Turner, him going to the Bears at 9, I think it makes a lot of sense if the Falcons were to move down to 10 and grab Quinion Mitchell right there ahead of those teams. That's kind of his range right there, starting at around 11 or 12, where you might see his name pop up as a potential candidate to come off the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the Seahawks did last year with Devin Witherspoon, bringing him in a little earlier. But I'm talking about just you have, it may not be the biggest need, but you have now 2 really good corners in Witherspoon and Woolen. You get AJ Terrell and Quinion Mitchell. I get that as well. Um, I think on yours, my most interesting one. We both have Bo Nix just in different spots. It's really just how they get there.
Yeah.
But our drafts have gone very different to this point. In this section, we have definitely switched up how we're going. You have a lot of tackles. I have I have a few tackles, but I have a lot of just diversity in there. Which either way, it could both happen. Absolutely. I don't know. The tackles, there's a lot of them, and there's going to be a run somewhere. It's just
There
how
will.
early does it happen?
Yeah. This mock for me is really it's shaped up differently than some of my others that I've done in the past, but it's not maybe this is a terrible mock, but it made sense as it went, which normally I accidentally drop a player further than they should go. But
Yeah.
it started to make sense even though it's a little bit different. And there's some picks here and there that you're gonna see in most other mocks, but it's a little bit different. It still made sense to me.
I gotcha. Let's move on to our 17 to 24.
17 to 24. All right. So the Jags, I've got them sticking here at 17. I think they've kind of been a team that people have mocked potentially for a trade down, perhaps, or somewhere, might have teams moving around in this range and other mocks. But I have them sticking and taking Brian Thomas Jr. right here. Go get them an elite deep threat prospect. 18, I've got the Bengals going with Jazon Newton to somewhat fill the role that DJ Reader left after he went up to Detroit. Not the same player, but I think that adds they've got bigger bodies uh, along the interior D line, and so I think bringing in Jerzon Newton adds a new aspect to their defensive line that they didn't have before. That twitchy pass rush guy right there in the middle.
Yeah.
19, I've got the Rams sticking and picking. Leatu Latu, to me it makes sense. They need an edge, and he's relatively local right there in LA, coming from UCLA. Steelers at 20, I've got them sticking and picking. Graham Barton, just a super versatile O lineman. You got younger guys on that O line, so who knows? The O line in Pittsburgh could look completely different in 3 years, and a guy like Graham Barton could be super important for them, just being able to shuffle them around wherever you need them to be. 21, I've got the Dolphins taking Byron Murphy to fill the void that Christian Wilkins left when he went to the Raiders this offseason. 22, this has been a favorite pick of mine in recent mocks. I've got the Eagles taking Cooper DeJean. I think it just makes too much sense. 23, this is another trade I have here. This is the third trade I have in this mock. I've got the Bills moving up with, I believe it is the Chargers. Yeah, so it was one of the picks the Chargers got from, in my mock, the the Vikings. The Vikings.
The Vikings.
Yeah. So Chargers move down to 28. Bills come up and take A.D. Mitchell right there at 23. And then for this last pick in this segment, I've got the Cowboys taking J.C. Latham. He's a right tackle. They have more of a need at left tackle, but I think they can make it work. It's just such a big need that I think they wouldn't pass out on a big time need of theirs just because he plays on one side and not the other. I think it's something that they would be willing to work through with him. Perhaps you move Terrence Steele over. Maybe you try moving J.C. Latham over to left tackle. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. I think Leatu Latu, I think he's one of those prospects. I have him at 16 in basically every mock draft because I think Seattle needs a guy like that, and I don't think Verse or Turner will be on the board.
Mm-hmm.
You have him at 19, just 3 picks later. I think that is pretty much his range. I don't care what team it is. It's just he's got that high floor of a player. The only problem with him is his medicals, and to this point they're fine. But they could pop back up later on in his career. Graham Barton to the Steelers. We'll see. I wouldn't love it for my Steelers, but at the same time, because if we get him, I think he's a center. I don't love a center at pick 20. But either way, we'll go into my picks. What was it, 17 through 24? I have the Jaguars doing the exact opposite thing in terms of they didn't take a receiver, they're taking a corner. Terry and Arnold. They need a corner in my opinion, and I think they could use a receiver as well, but. Corner is where they grade out here. Get Terry and Arnold. The 18, the Bengals go Olu Fashanu. To me, it's either tackle or D-tackle. One of the ways you go. I think Olu's a really good player. This guy was the first tackle off the board in every mock draft last year prior to him going back to college, and there was a reason for that. Yeah, he had a bit of a rough year at Penn State, but whatever. 19, the Rams go J.C. Latham. This is this world where they don't have Leatu Latu on the board. Latham, another big need. Their tackle positions are, turnstiles at this point. So, a big one. I'm going back with the Pittsburgh Steelers to them taking Cooper DeJean. I do think there is for a while there, my dream died of Cooper DeJean being a Steeler, and it has slowly rekindled itself. Do I believe it as much as I used to? No. But every year we know what the Steelers are going to take. We knew last year they were taking tackle. We knew the year before that they were taking quarterback. We knew the year before they were taking running back. I don't know what they're taking this year. I think it's just as likely they go tackle, they go corner, they go center. I don't know. Cooper DeJean would be a great pick here as a Steeler. 21, Jerzon Newton. He falls a little farther than what he did in years. It's just basically the same pick, just different position or different player, same position. 22, Eagles get Nate Wiggins, the corner out of Clemson. I think that's a big need for the Eagles. You got DeJean, I got Wiggins. It's just who's on the board. 23, Byron Murphy goes to the Cardinals. That was the trade I had with the same situation. It was the Vikings trading you for Chargers, me for Cardinals. They get Byron Murphy. That gives the Cardinals now in my picks. They've now had 11 and 23. They get Adunze and Byron Murphy. And the Cowboys draft Amarius Mims. Once again, same thing you did, really, just different player at the position. They need a tackle, as you already said, and they're going to get one way or another.
Right.
Anything sticks out there to you?
Yeah, so I had the same I have a similar thought process that you had at 17 with the Jags. I couldn't. It took me a second to decide whether I wanted to mock them taking a receiver or a corner. And if I would have drafted them a corner, obviously you drafted them. You mocked Terry or Nate Wiggins. Um,
Yeah.
and I went back and forth a little bit, and I just I this is such an important year for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence going into his fourth year, they got to make a decision on what they're going to do with him. And to me, it's just like, man, you gotta do everything you can to give the guy the best shot to go out and prove that he is the franchise quarterback. And to me, that's going out and getting another weapon for him. Go get a guy like Brian Thomas who can really stretch the field. You can get Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram exclusively working underneath, and you can have Gabe Davis and rotate Zay Jones in as well to work the deeper intermediate part of the field. But I could see it going either way. But man, I just can't imagine the Jaguars not giving Trevor Lawrence the best chance possible to prove himself as the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. It's just, do I agree that the Jaguars are smart enough to do that? I don't. So, they do it to themselves a lot. We'll see how
Yeah,
how smart they come out of this time. Either
yeah.
way, we'll move into our last stretch, 25 through 32.
hmm Yeah, so I've got Green Bay here at 25. This is kind of an interesting spot for Green Bay. I don't know exactly where they're gonna go. And Green Bay's usually one of those teams where you're like, who knows what they're gonna draft? They kind of just take someone. You're like, okay. Uh, I've got them taking Kool-Aid McKinstry. They've got a hole at corner that they really need to fill alongside Jair Alexander after they moved off of Rasul Douglas last year at the trade deadline. I think he'd be a good fit there for him. 26, I've got Nate Wiggins falling here to Tampa Bay. I've got slight little round corners going right here. I think it's a good enough fit for them. They just moved off of Carlton Davis, shipped him up to Detroit, and so get Nate Wiggins in there who can come in and be a certainly an impact player to some degree with a sub 4.3 speed. 27, I've got this is a Arizona pick right here. This is not no, this is Arizona's pick. They own this. Right. This is from the Texans, I believe, right? Is this the Texans pick? Okay, yeah. I've got Jared Verse going here, 27 to the Cardinals. And then 28, this is where I had the Chargers with their second pick from Minnesota trading back again with Buffalo. And I've got the Chargers right here taking Ladd McConkey. I think, they're Harbaugh, he's more of a, ground and pound type of guy, but you can't ignore the fact that you're giving your franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, two exclusively two deep threats, one of them of which proved to have, he had a terrible rookie season. Who knows if he's going to be anything? I think Ladd McConkey's going to be a really solid guy, and you can play him inside and outside. I think it's just a really good fit for what that offense needs right now. 29. If we show the graphic, it will be a little bit wonky because I accidentally messed up the picks here. I've got Detroit taking Chop Robinson here at 29. I think they the thing about Detroit, horrible pass defense last year. However, you can add an edge rusher and really take some pressure off of those corners, safeties, the secondary as a whole. You get Aiden Hutchinson on one side. I think you get a guy like Chop Robinson who can spend a little bit of time developing and being refined, and he can just be the other guy who's just screaming off the edge. 30, I've got Marius Mims going to the Baltimore Ravens. Give him some time to develop a little bit, and I think he can be an exceptional tackle, big body. He kind of seems like a Raven a little bit to me. 31, Jordan Morgan to the Niners. I think he's a guy he's solid. He's kind of similar to Olufashan in a way that he's a little bit more of a safer pick with not quite the upside that some of the other guys like Marius Mims might have. And I think he's a guy that because he's a safe floor, he's a little bit of an older prospect. I think there's potential for him to be able to move in and play guard if they need him to, or at some point kick out to tackle if Trent Williams retires in the next couple of seasons. And then my final pick here, Kansas City, they got to go receiver. Regardless of what happens to Rashee Rice, if he's playing or not, they still need a receiver. And I'm going to mock him Xavier Worthy. I think he could be – I think there's only a select few teams where Xavier Worthy can really be a very impactful player. I think he's kind of like a John Ross, where teams are going to be a little bit scared to pick him high. But I think if there's one team who can make it worth taking Xavier Worthy in the first round, it's going to be Kansas City. I would trust Andy Reid to be able to put Xavier Worthy in the best position possible to succeed in his rookie season and beyond that. And so I've got them adding Xavier Worthy, the playmaker.
Yeah, you'll see that we have some similar picks coming up. It's just kind of the players different than but the position's the same. Either way,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into mine because of that. At 25, the Packers are in a very weird spot. Corner does make some sense in my opinion as well. However, I go the opposite route and go Tyler Guyton, the tackle out of Oklahoma. They are going to be losing David Bakhtiari this year. They already have. They cut him. So that turns into a pretty large need. He's more of a right. He can play left. Bach was a left. There's things there. 26, same idea. You took Nate Wiggins. I take Kool-Aid McKinstry. Same situation for the Bucks. They need the corner now that they got rid of Carlton Davis. At 28, I have the Raiders trading up with the Cardinals to grab Michael Penix Jr. Now the Raiders have taken Talise Fuaga and Michael Penix. Cardinals, they need to, acquire the assets so you can go back, 10 spots into the second round or whatever it is, something like that, and grab, some really solid capital out of doing that just for, not much.
Mm-hmm.
At, where are we at? 28, I have the same pick you did, just didn't trade up for it. The Bills grabbing Adonai Mitchell. I think Adonai Mitchell, we both think Adonai Mitchell is a great pick. He's only this part of the draft because we have three really, really, really good receiver prospects this year. And he's still a really, really good receiver prospect.
Yeah.
At 29, I have Brian Thomas Jr. coming off the board kind of later than a lot of people have him. But just kind of how the board fell, I think, you can argue that maybe he goes ahead of him and, maybe the Bills want Brian Thomas more. To me, I just think the Bills, A.D. Mitchell fits the Bills for some reason. I don't really have a direct reason. I think he could be more of a real number one, and that's maybe why. I don't think Brian Thomas is quite the same outlook as a number one wideout, but either way. At 30, the Baltimore Ravens take Darius Robinson, the edge out of Missouri. He just looks like a Raven to me, man. Every time I look at him play, he just seems like a Baltimore Raven. A big edge rusher, D lineman who's, just a lot better than he should be for some reason. It seems like, he's not quite elite, but he's not bad for at all. And he's just a Raven. 31. I have the Niners grabbing Graham Barton out of Duke, a versatile lineman. And then at 32, I have the Chiefs getting Jordan Morgan. Similar how you got the Niners grabbing him. The Chiefs, they've had the offensive line issues with Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor already. Go ahead and fix them before they start, really. I think, did Donovan Smith leave this year? Is he already gone? I want to say he did.
Let me look.
I wanted to really say that one of them wasn't there anymore, and that's why I did that. I could be completely wrong, but we're looking.
He's still in KC.
He's still a Chief. Well, I don't think they have a problem with trying to replace the issues
Nah,
of
yeah.
starts and the penalties that they had last year. Jordan Morgan, as you said, is a really solid prospect either way, and it just gives your team a little bit more safety in terms of that as well. So either way, that's our picks. Do you have anything you want to differentiate on those?
Yeah. Really, I'm really surprised to see Brian Thomas fall past A.D. Mitchell. As much as I love A.D. Mitchell, and you do as well, like you said, we're both on the A.D. Mitchell hype train. I think a lot of other people are not quite as high on him. There potentially could be some character concerns, who knows? But I think there's other people that just aren't quite as high on him and are scared of, why did he not produce like the other guys, other receivers at the top of draft boards did? He only had about, I believe, 700 receiving yards this past season on about 50 catches, I believe. I mean, nothing earth shattering by any means. So it's a little bit cause concern. I understand, but when you're in the first round, you're drafting off of those elite traits, and you get a guy with the size that he has and the speed. That profile is just you're not finding that down the board in the third, fourth, fifth round. You're not. So you're drafting that for the player that he can be, not exactly for the player he is now. And even now, I still think he's a solid player. But Brian Thomas just he's similar in the sense that he has the size speed profile, but he produced. And at that, he produced alongside one of the other receivers who is going to go top 10, Malik Neighbors, who also produces such a high level. So
Yeah.
to me, as much as I do like AD Mitchell is a lock for wide receiver 5. Brian Thomas is a lock for 4. So, and it's the NFL draft. Crazy stuff happens. You get guys who fall. Last year, it was Christian Gonzalez was drafted after Emmanuel Forbes. No one in their right mind had Emmanuel Forbes ranked ahead of Christian Gonzalez on any big boards. No one's CB2 was Emmanuel Forbes, especially over Christian Gonzalez. So is it plausible? I suppose so. Is it likely? In my opinion, not so much, but I can respect it because it's the NFL draft. The back end of the first round is always weird. But other than that, the only other pick that differed a little bit in my thinking was the Chiefs grabbing a tackle instead of a receiver. And I think as much as they do need a receiver, it's a deep class. And at this rate, you're looking at a guy like, is Xavier Worthy the type of receiver they really want? Maybe not, and I would totally get it if they chose to take a guy round 2, maybe even 3, as opposed to taking Xavier Worthy round 1 because he doesn't quite fit the ideal wide receiver 1 profile by any means. But other than that, the rest of the picks checked out in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of play devil's advocate on you a little bit. For the tackle pick for the Chiefs, we thought they were going to take a receiver last year, and they took an edge rusher. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Chiefs are just different. You don't know what they're going to do. The tackle position is a need, in my opinion, because of the issues you had with Smith and Taylor.
Yeah.
Could you go another way? Sure. At the same time, we don't know what the Chiefs do because we didn't think they were going to take an edge rusher last year. And then the
Right.
AD Mitchell Brian Thomas thing, I think we can agree that there's tiers in this receiver class. There's the one tier, which is Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze. Maybe that order, maybe not. Either way, that's tier 1. Tier 2 is Thomas and Mitchell, and then I think there's a gap, and then there's tier 3, whoever's there. But it could go Mitchell then Thomas, Thomas then Mitchell. I don't think that matters too much. To me, I just think for specifically the Bills, if they're both on the board, AD Mitchell is that potential wide receiver 1. Yeah, you had talked about the how much they produced. To me, yeah, Brian Thomas produced absolutely. Could you argue at the same time that he produced because of Malik Neighbors being there? I think that's plausible. You can argue that he was open because everybody's worried about Malik Neighbors. That's an argument, but either way, both good prospects, both the same tier, whichever one you want to put ahead of each other. I just think for the Bills, AD Mitchell kind of fits better for what they might be looking for than what Brian Thomas is. He may not be, he may be a very good NFL receiver, but not a true number 1 down the line in his career. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just my take on those. Any last things you have to finish up before this episode closes?
Oh, I don't think so.
Any
These are.
takes for the draft this weekend?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Any special takes for the draft this weekend?
Special take. Man. I think I don't have any take. All I'm gonna say is I wouldn't be surprised if New England just broke my soul and crushed my dreams by trading out and missing out on one of the top 3 quarterbacks. I don't like how
Yeah.
much how many ESPN notifications I've seen about potential trade outs for New England with the Vikings and the Giants.
Yeah.
It's going to drive me crazy. It's going to be the longest 3 days between now and Thursday. So
Oh yeah.
all I don't care what happens as long as we stick and pick and get either Drake May or Jane Daniels in that order.
Yep, I can see that. I will say before we close, I'm not going to be doing anything on the channel for round 1 as we're going to chill and enjoy our evening that one. But day 2, second and third round, I will try to be live streaming the entire thing. So if you're interested, please stop in. Whatever that's going on YouTube, SHRD3R, Shredder's how it's said. Either way, thank you guys for watching and spending only 35 minutes of your week with us this time. tried to get a quick one out for you before the draft comes through. But either way, we thank y'all very much if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, and we'll see y'all next week.